A lot of real people are name checked. At one point, Agatha Christie's grandson, I think his grandson or great grandson, anyway, her last living relative, is used as an alibi, and he's very much a real person. Hi, it's Ricarda, aka the .303 Bookworm, and today I don't have one book for you, but three, and it's the Susan Ryland series by Anthony Horowitz. If you are unfamiliar with Anthony Horowitz, he is a novelist and screenwriter. He's been working since the mid-80s, and he has done a lot of he's done a lot of young adult writing, but he's also, like I said, done at least two standalone series of crime novels, and this is the one that just recently finished with the third part, or at least he said so far that it's going to be over after the third one, and quite frankly I don't see how it could be extended any further. I generally quite enjoy Anthony Horowitz's writing. I know he has a certain tendency to put his foot in his mouth, but that is something that he's actually quite aware of, and yeah, that's something that I will discuss at some point when I make a video about his other current series. Like I said, he started working all the way in the 1980s. The first, or the earliest thing of his that I've seen, he did series 3 of Robin of Sherwood, which is an absolute cult classic. And in series 3, they replaced the main character, not just the actor, but the character of Robin, with another guy also called Robin, who was then played by Jason Connery, who's Sean Connery's son. And Horowitz wrote a few episodes of that. And if you can track down that show, it's marvelous. I'm still waiting to introduce my kids to it because it is a little bit too violent for my 4-year-old. But it's, it's great for older kids, and there's a just wonderful nostalgic element for adults who grew up or sort of around it. Anyway, he has then, like I said, he worked on a lot of TV shows as well. So he did Foyle's War. He adapted a couple of the later Poirots, where he did a pretty good job. And he knows his way around the crime novel genre. And these books are very interesting in that they're sort of meta. Not quite as meta as the other series, about which I will make a video at some other point. So you have Susan Ryland, and she is a middle-aged editor. She works at a small publishing house, and essentially she has to work with a writer whom she doesn't particularly like. And he is working on the last book of a series which is not unlike the Poirot series. You have Atticus Pund, who is also a sort of slightly enigmatic, slightly strange European. And the mysteries are set in the 1950s. Yes. The writer, Alan Conway, who is kind of he's the main source of income for this tiny publishing house, and so it's very important to keep it on the side. He's a fairly unpleasant human being, and he has a tendency to put real characters into the novels, just about in such a way that he's not going to quite get sued, but it's always touch and go, and he's just not very nice. This is obviously very much based on the fact that, Horowitz has been around publishing houses for a long time. He knows writers, he knows how it all goes. And one day Alan Conway is murdered, and a part of the last manuscript is missing. And the question is, first of all, why did that happen? And secondly, why, so not just why was he murdered, but what's in the missing part of the manuscript. And Susan gets involved in this. And eventually her life is in danger, and it all gets terribly exciting, of course. And it's kind of nice, you have a woman in her 50s and she's the heroine, and it's nice to see somebody like that, and just she has adventures, she has a sex life, which is something that thankfully we have a lot of more, this portrayal of middle-aged women, whereas in the olden days there were no real stories involving women as interesting, vibrant people if they were over the age of, say, 50. So in the book, and in this one, they stop this later on for some reason, is you have parts of the story where you have Susan narrating, and then you have, which are sort of, just ordinary serif style, and then you have here more the typewriter style parts of the book, which are pages from the manuscript where she reads, and then you have her to stop identifying as, okay, well, clearly this is going on here, you can tell, oh right, and yes, this is obviously based on a real person. And it's rather a fun read. I really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the first one as much as I enjoyed the second and the third, actually, for some reason. Gave it a lower score, I seem to recall. It's fun, a lot of real people are name checked. At one point, Agatha Christie's grandson, I think it's grandson or great grandson, anyway, her last living relative is used as an alibi, and he's very much a real person. This was adapted for television. It's starring Leslie Manville, who's a very good actress, and she does a marvelous job as Susan. Now, when I read the book, I definitely see Leslie Manville in my head. The second one, so, I mean, based on this premise, how can it be a second book? I mean, what's he going to do, get murdered again? But no, actually, because now we have to go back and have a book that's already published, and it relates to a real life murder. And Susan is approached about this, and she gets involved, and she starts investigating again. And yeah, I mean, the conceit behind it is a little bit thin, I guess, but it is just really, really fun. And it keeps you guessing in two ways, because, I mean, you have to figure out, sort of, as you go along, you have to figure out the solution of the mystery in the book you're reading, within the book you're reading. And in addition to, her life as a crime fighter and somebody who just manages to go around to people's houses and ask them the most impertinent questions, really, without any police authority or anything, as people in these novels inevitably do, you also have Susan in her private life. She has a Greek boyfriend, and at the end of the first novel, they move to, I think, Crete and open a hotel, and they're in the beginning of the second one, they're in financial difficulty, which is why she takes this job. Yeah, it's set partially at a hotel. It's fun, like I said, it's tremendous fun. Then this is, for now, the last one, and apparently the reason why it exists is because of Leslie Manville, because I don't know what she exactly suggested that made Aunt Horowitz write this, but I definitely can't get mad at her for doing it, because I really like this book. So you have Susan deciding that she just can't take Crete anymore. It's too boring, so she wants to get back to London. And she wants to go back into publishing. Okay, now, very quick spoiler. It is because of Susan that her last boss ended up in prison. Okay? Don't need to know the details behind it, but because of something Susan does, her last boss ends up in prison, so she's essentially unemployable in publishing. However, she does get employment, and interestingly, she gets the sort of one of the younger sons of a family of okay, somebody who is not Enid Blyton. Okay, it's like who is obviously not in any way, shape, or form any resemblance is completely coincidental based on Enid Blyton. And this lady who was very successful with her children's books and blah blah blah, and there's a whole trust, and they're considering making a Netflix and deal, and you know, reissuing the books, etc., etc. So it then comes with this, oh yeah, and the grandson has to be allowed to write a new Atticus poem. And she works with him. She dislikes him tremendously, which is funny because she dislikes him in a completely different way from how she dislikes the original author. And of course, things get rather involved. There is the murder mystery in the book. And then there is the suggestion of, hang on, was there a murder of some description? If so, what exactly, etc., etc. As per usual, Susan gets into peril and trouble, and she also has a certain, sometimes the tone she talks about herself and the things she does, that there is a certain element of Bridget Jonesiness to it. You know, just the, oh, should I be drinking this at this time of day type thing. And if I put, you know, it's like, if I put a salad leaf next to it, does that make it healthy type thing? And that adds a certain charm. Like I said, the portrayal of Leslie Manuel helps from that, because you just find yourself picturing her doing that. And it is charming, and they're good mysteries. They're obviously good mysteries because, like I said, Aunt Horowitz is somebody who's very familiar with pretty much all the classic mysteries. And they are very, very good books. What I think is quite funny here is that I just realized that even though they're all three kind of similar editions, you have Orion books. I don't know what this one, but the A is. And then here you just have the classic Penguin. So I think that Orion is a subsidiary of Penguin, but it's just really funny that you have a trilogy of 3 books, and the design mostly, or at least with the last 2, kind of similar, but you have 3 different publishers' logos at the bottom. It's kind of funny. So I'm sure there's going to be a 3rd series of Magpie Murders adaptation. I'm sure that will come around, and I wouldn't be surprised if it came out around Christmas, when my husband and I rather enjoy watching this kind of thing. It's funny because we have this tradition where we, on the 24th of December, we have inflatable mattresses and we sleep between the tree and the fireplace, and everybody has a book and reads until they're asleep, and the kids usually fall asleep quickly, and we always buy each other a novel that we've been looking forward to reading. And I got the latest Ben Aronovich for myself, which I'm also going to do a review on at another point. And I got my husband Marble Hall Murders. And then I was done with mine, and he still had this. And then I just said, do you mind if I get a second bookmark and I read it when you're not reading it? So we actually literally read this book at the same time, and it was just, can you overtake me? Can I overtake you? It's fun. I think reading together in that way is just fun, because you can also talk about it, because like, oh, do you think so and so, and yeah, do you think they did it? No. So yeah, I really like these books. They're just fun, and I generally am a Horowitz fan. I do like his sense of humor. I do like that he's also very self-aware of the fact that, like any good writer, he does steal a lot from a lot of places, and he does this, very consciously, and with always tongue-in-cheek and the sideways nod at the reader. And I appreciate that. I really enjoy it. It's really fun for me. I really recommend these books. And obviously, it's always the thing, but stuff is missing from adaptations, and it's only so good. And if you have an image of like a character in your mind and then they cast a different actor, that's hard. But I really did enjoy the TV adaptation. I absolutely recommend it, and I definitely recommend the books. So if you've read them and you have something to say about it, please do comment down below. Otherwise, just go out, get them. They're tremendous fun, and like and subscribe. I'll see you again very soon. Bye.